Now, two hashtags were trending in Hong Kong: Central Authority will not be challenged and Protect Hong Kong. The ongoing anti-extradition demonstrations on Sunday turned violent. Police fired tear gas and rubber bullets at protesters at the rally, and as some pro-democracy protesters made their way home, they were attacked by dozens of masked men who stormed a train station in the Yen Long area. Well, we can speak now to Kerry Allen, who is the BBC's China media analyst, and also with us here in the centre of the newsroom at our desk is Howard Zhang, editor of BBC Chinese. Howard, first of all, I've been speaking to protesters and I'll play my conversation with them shortly. And there seems to be some confusion about who these men dressed in white shirts are. Do we have any clarification?
It's very difficult. We're trying still to interview a few people, even anonymously, but at this very moment, there's no firm sort of answer to who these people are. But there are loads of suspicions, and from the past kind of experiences, from the previous protests, people suspect they're local gang members or the local, what they call triad members. But of course, we have no independent confirmation of that.
And just explain for people listening around the world, if it was them, why would they be attacking pro-democracy demonstrators?
The few sort of possible apparent reasons. One of the reasons suggested was a few days ago there was a protest against the smugglers along the China-Hong Kong border. So it could be, one of the tipping points that, you touch my turf. I'm going to show you. That's one of the theories. But of course, there are also others suggested that it's possible that one of the government sides, either the Hong Kong government or even possibly Beijing side, had paid off some of the local thugs to do certain action. But of course, none of this, it's all circulating in Hong Kong, but none of that we can independently prove.
Kerry Allen, I've been, and I'm sure you've been seeing so many videos online of people recording these attacks. Give us a sense of what you're reading and what people are saying.
Well, we have heard in the last half an hour that 4 people have been arrested in relation with these attacks yesterday, and today it doesn't matter in Hong Kong whether you're a pro-Beijing paper or whether you're an independent paper. Pictures of clashes taking place again are dominating most of the front pages of newspapers. So a lot of pro-Beijing papers are describing this as a mob attack, but independent media, they're saying that it's people dressed in white. And what we've seen for the past month or so now, these ongoing protests in Hong Kong related to the extradition bill, is people wearing black, literally hundreds of thousands of people wearing black. So it's very clear that they're not part of the protesters. These are a different group of people. And we've not seen any indication within the mainland who they are whatsoever either. But the fact that they're actually appearing in mainland media, mainland social media, is actually quite striking. There's a lot of praise for them on Sina Weibo, the platform that's like Facebook or Twitter in China, because those platforms are blocked, with people saying that it's almost a good versus evil, because they've had the perception for a long time now that the protests that have been taking place in Hong Kong have been hooligans, they've been violent, so they're seeing these people who are trying to get these people dressed in black off the streets as vigilantes, as good figures.
And Howard, this is taking these protests in a very different direction. There's been some violence, but not huge levels of violence so far.
Not the physical kind of threatening level of violence. You've seen lots of damage to property, but to human kind of attacks, those bodily attacks. We actually Sunday evening Hong Kong time, so this was over more than a day ago, one of the local journalists attacked was actually a former BBC Chinese colleague. And so she was wearing a visible press yellow jersey and helmet, holding a camera apparently. And in one of the videos, we saw her actually got laid on by 4 or 5 men with big sticks, a 20-year-old woman being attacked by 4 or 5 men. So that, at least from that incident, and she's in hospital still. So that's the type of thing you cannot explain. Whatever, I can't imagine a young journalist who's there to film somehow deserve to be beaten by 5 men.
And is it clear if that's because she's a local journalist, or is it just all journalists?
That's, again, everybody's guess. So it could be she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But so far there's no. I think during the previous Million Man March, there was one incident of some of the foreign journalists being roughed up. But this time, I think all the incidents were the local Hong Kong journalists.
Kerry, I was also aware that there have been some people posting online leaving out clothes for the protesters. Have you seen this when they were coming back? So people who were dressed in black leaving T-shirts out so they could get changed so that they wouldn't be targeted by these white shirts?
Well, one of the things that we've seen in the last month or so is people, once they've been protesting, running away from the area or trying to not be identified because no matter, if they're wearing black clothes, they could be identified further down the line, and people can get 10 years imprisonment if they're implicated in these demonstrations whatsoever. So it's not just been quickly changing clothes. I mean, there's been a lot of preparation from the demonstrators during this whole event now, as it's been going on for months. But there have also been, subways, for example, people paying in cash so that then their ID is not recognised, that they're in certain areas. So it's a way of people protecting each other, because a lot of these protesters are very young, and a 10-year prison sentence means that, basically their youth is gone. They won't be out of prison for, a lot of these people are in their 20s, they may even be teens, so they wouldn't be out of prison until their 30s or 40s.
Have we seen any condemnation from the Chinese government for what happened by these men in white shirts?
There's generic condemnation towards any violent act, but there's no condemnation. But the feel you get is more condemnation towards protesters being violent rather than these white dressing street. I wouldn't call them whatever names, but they were attacking people with big sticks.
Thank you both for coming down to speak to us. Heard there from Hao Zhang, editor of BBC Chinese, also Kerry Allen, who's the BBC's China media analyst.